consider Senate File 2173, and I will call the subcommittee meeting to order. The bill is, the short title is English Proficiency for CDL Holders. The bill requires the Department of Transportation to examine the English proficiency of each person who applies for a CDL or commercial learner's permit. The person must meet the standards of English proficiency set in, I guess this is a federal code, CFR 391.11. DOT shall not issue the CDL or learner's permit unless proficiency is met. The examen may be taken multiple times subject to availability, and it must be a computer-based format. It also prohibits the commercial motor carriers from employing or engaging the services of a driver who is not sufficiently proficient in English. And then there are violations, civil penalties set, and so forth. With that, Senator Winkler, do you have any comments or questions before we carry on?
No, I want to hear from the public.
Senator Shipley?
Yeah, we got people here that's far more well versed than I, so start with them.
Okay, with that, we'll start here and work around. Sir?
So Blake Romas with the...
Make sure he has the mic.
Yes, we got to get you on.
Blake Romas with the Iowa Motor Truck Association. This is a bill that we brought forth in consultation with the Department of Public Safety and the Department of Transportation this year. Roadway safety and protecting the integrity of our workforce is a top priority for the Iowa Motor Truck Association. And over the last 3 to 5 years, we've unfortunately seen significant degradation of the professionalism and quality of drivers that are on our roadways, as well as the unvetted carriers who are employing these individuals. We've very unfortunately seen many recent and very public examples of crashes involving commercial motor vehicles driven by individuals who cannot speak, read, or understand the English language as provided or required by federal regulation. Just last week, 4 men in Indiana were killed when their vehicle, and a 5th was critically injured when their vehicle was hit head-on by a truck that swerved into their lane, driven by an illegal immigrant who could not satisfy the federal ELP requirements. Unfortunately, there were few, if any, consequences for these unsafe drivers over the past decade due to a 2016 FMCSA memo that removed the requirement for law enforcement to place drivers out of service for violating ELP standards. In May of 2025, Secretary Duffy rescinded said memo, and the out-of-service requirement was once again enforced starting in June 2025. And since then, more than 12,000 drivers nationwide have been placed out of service, including nearly 500 in the state of Iowa, 9th most among the 50 states. However, it's our position that simply placing a driver out of service is no longer sufficient penalty to address this critical matter of roadway safety. Drivers placed out of service are essentially operating on an honor system. Don't drive that truck because you're out of service. However, once the law enforcement officer leaves, there's nothing stopping that driver from getting back in their vehicle and driving down the road, save for significant fines and penalties for being caught violating an out of service order, but that depends on getting caught. Moreover, the driver is usually only a symptom of the larger problem. These carriers that unabashedly skirt the rules and regulations often pay these drivers wages significantly under market pay because they know these drivers couldn't be employed by a reputable carrier who plays by the rules. When that driver eventually gets caught, the carrier simply terminates their employment and keeps on operating. So to that end, after extensive consultation with the Iowa DOT and DPS, we feel this bill is necessary to start attacking the issue at its root. The chameleon carriers who have created and perpetuated this issue. By requiring verification of English language proficiency prior to the issuance of a CDL, we can stop these drivers from getting behind the wheel of an 18-wheeler in the first place. And by giving our law enforcement partners the ability to levy significant fines and penalties against the carriers that employ these drivers, we can make a difference in getting these bad actors off of Iowa's roadways. We would like to offer an amendment to the original bill text after continued consultation with DOT and DPS. I will hand that out here in just a second. While on paper it's going to seem like proposing significant changes, these are primarily administrative changes to the bill to make more specific references to federal regulations and department procedures, further enhancing the enforceability of the bill. There are also provisions that provide DOT and DPS the ability to pause enforcement should there be future federal regulatory changes that would result in the loss of federal funding from enforcement of this bill's provisions. And finally, a provision to delay the implementation of the DOT pre-CDL issuance testing until March of 2027 to accommodate current ongoing system and software upgrades. Thank you.
Thank you. And I assume you're not going to speak today. Susan?
Good afternoon, Susan Fenton with the Iowa DOT. We're registered neutral on the bill, but we do appreciate the amendment that delays this until 2017. Thank you.
Josie
Thank you.
Wagler with the Department of Public Safety. Just here to listen.
Mana?
Mona Bond, Manats, and other highway contractors. I'd sent a letter to the committee about several of the things that we talked about or that we had concerns about. I talked to Susan this morning. I was tickled to death at the 17th date because it gives them implementation time. I also volunteered someone from Manats to sit in a group to help them to better understand what they're going to do when we put this together. So we recognize that we have to have it. It's just putting it together.
Thank you for your input.
Just monitoring.
I guess that's it for those in the room. Unless I'm missing someone, raise your hand. How about online? Do we have any participants who want to speak to the bill online? Raise your hand electronically. Seeing none, I guess we're finished with comments from the public. So now I go to my colleagues. Senator Winker, do you have any observations or questions?
I need some clarification, and would you allow me to ask you some questions? So I served on the committee the subcommittee in regard to CDL licensing and human trafficking education, and it was my understanding that in order to receive a license in Iowa, you had to be English proficient. There is a clause there. So I'm trying to figure out who we might be identifying as not being proficient, and are they licensed out of state? Where is the issue? If we don't give a license to individuals who have not been English proficient, who is this targeting?
So the federal regulations do require English language proficiency. However, there is not a standardized test or verification process that is followed for that.
Okay.
That's where this would implement for the DOT. I don't know if Susan wants to weigh in on that at all, but that's really what we're aiming for here is the upfront validation rather than not finding out until someone's already been issued a license and they're stopped at roadside that they are not proficient for the federal regulation.
So there's no identification with that driver who goes to the DOT that they are English language proficient.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Is that it? Senator
Yes,
Shipley.
Well, thank you. I think sometimes we've had issues with, and let's just face it, the not proficient in English are probably going to be immigrants. And there's always been the issue of employing people who, for whatever reason, and the employers are just getting off scot-free. Well, it seems this looks like it also puts your skin in the game now for the companies that hire. And I think that's kind of important to have that. So I think everybody seems to agree that this is public, well, everybody, but seems to be in agreement that this is a good step to go down. Having talked to people, truck drivers, had a classmate who ran a truck driving school and so forth. It's a big deal. It's a big issue for some of those people. When you're trying to communicate with another driver, whatever, and neither one of you speaks the language of the other, it's a problem. So I'm willing to sign off on this and move it ahead. And I'm glad somebody's brought an amendment to maybe touch up some of these things that are a concern, because sometimes implementation takes a while, and sometimes we don't realize how long it takes to get those things put in place. So.
I have another question. May I?
Senator Winkler, you are recognized.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So in some cases, you mentioned immigration, and in some cases, when we've had legislation identifying immigration or undocumented, in many cases, the ag community is exempt. Is this going to be a problem for the ag community to be able to follow this? I don't know, but I know that in some cases they carry an exemption. Um, in There was one in hostages earlier in the year or last year. So I just have that question. I don't have an answer.
It's a fair question. I won't try to answer it here other than to say that as one that knows an awful lot of Iowa farm truck drivers, I've not witnessed anything, but that in itself, of course, isn't mean much. So I have several questions that presumably I will be the floor manager for this bill if we go to the floor. There are questions that have been posed to me about cost of testing, process, curriculum, all those things that are associated with passing a test or getting a certification. So I think those questions need to be answered. We got staff taking notes and listening. We have DOT here. We have the Motor Truck Association. So I hope that process continues because I don't have the answers to all those questions today. And I think before this is a finished process, a finished product, we do have to address that. And I see someone raise their hand online. Who can I recognize here? Matt Chapman, is that? No, I'm sorry.
It is.
Okay, why is OK Henderson's name?
Because I was listening downstairs and the sound went off.
Okay. Matt, carry on. You have the floor. Matt Chapman?
I can't hear you.
Our audio is muted.
The audio got muted when the person from Manats was speaking.
Okay.
We're fixing that.
Do you have us now?
Now I have you.
Okay. We have you, you have us. We're good. Let's go. What do you got to say?
I got nothing to say. I just want to let you know that I didn't watch it. I
Oh.
think Laura's fair reporting anyway, so we'll get a chance to see it on YouTube.
All right. Thank you. With that, no other questions from my colleagues. I'm going to sign the subcommittee report recommending passage with amendment. And we'll keep working on the bill. And I thank you all for coming.
And young lady, that wasn't your fault because you couldn't see that camera.
You want to sign it today?
No, it's all right. It just, I didn't want anybody to think it was she
What
passed
happened
out.
after Manats?